I'm about to drop a new podcast episode on you, wholesome people. Welcome back to the Danny Flow podcast. It's good to be with you. Episode 57. If you've watched a previous episode of mine or listened to a previous episode of mine, chances are that you like it. So go ahead and preemptively like this one. You can always unlike it at halfway through the episode or at the end of the episode if it turns out that you don't like it. But I feel really grateful, really blessed, really fortunate, all of those adjectives to have made it to episode 57. I'm also excited that I've been consistent with the episodes this year as opposed to only dropping 2 episodes last year, and which I've talked a little bit about that in previous episodes. And then the previous year started out strong with very many interesting interviews that are available for your viewing and listening pleasure, but wasn't able to sustain that, right? That's what the last episode was about. But this year, episode 52, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's the sixth episode, and I'm on the way. I'm in the progress. I'm taking the steps necessary to make it to 100 episodes this year. So thank you for being here. It's good to be with you. And today I have the help of my, see these scribbles? Those are my kids, but I can still see my writing through it. So I have the help of my notebook today because I want to talk about obvious blessings in my life. Now, when people hear the word blessings, it's associated with people who believe in God. God blesses us with things, or he blesses us by maybe taking things away. And I understand that not everyone believes in God, and even people who believe in God, there's different kind of theist, right? So a theist is just somebody that believes in God. Specifically, I do think a personal God or personal gods. If it's plural, it's polytheism, poly as in multiple. But there's also such a thing as deism. It starts with D, Deism, and that's someone that believes in a creator God but doesn't believe that that creator God expects or wants anything from them, right? So I understand not everybody is a believer, so I'm going to use the language according to my belief system, but taking a look at your obvious blessings or counting your blessings, the secular version of that or the non-religious version of that is just practicing gratitude. And within the context of my own belief system, which is Catholicism, we are taught to be grateful to God and be grateful to our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ that help us along our life journey, right? So I just think that counting your blessings or taking a look at your blessings, especially your obvious ones, because it's easy to overlook the obvious ones. I think personally it gives you energy, right? It gives you it gets you excited. It fills you with enthusiasm. So if you're not a religious person like me, I think those things would still be true if you quote unquote practice gratitude. So this notebook is a little bit special to me. If you could probably look through the backlog of content here on my YouTube channel, and you'll see that for a little bit, for a time period, I was transferring some TikToks that I created on my TikTok account, which is actually the platform that I have the most amount of followers, but is currently inactive. And if you're interested in knowing why, go ahead and leave a comment and I'll make an episode about why I'm inactive on TikTok. But I have about 2,400 followers on TikTok, and I literally achieved that following in about a year. And then I meant to take a break last year during Lent and returned to it after Lent was over, but um, I didn't. And like I said, if you're interested in knowing why, go ahead and leave me a comment, but otherwise, I'm just going to leave it at that. But for a little bit, as I was deciding the direction of this YouTube channel, and you can read more about that in the About Me section of this YouTube channel, for a while I was transferring over TikTok videos that I had created on my TikTok account into YouTube Shorts, and they were related to Catholic apologetics. Now, when I started that TikTok channel, I had a red notebook filled like this, and sorry about the change in lighting. It's on auto adjust. I'll try not to flash the notebook, that way it doesn't do that. You've seen it 2 or 3 times now, you get the point. And for those just listening to the audio version, I'm recording on my camera phone, so it like auto adjusts the lighting, so when I flash the notebook, it's like bright white in my face. But yeah, I was transferring over those videos into YouTube Shorts, and the way that I would create those videos on TikTok is I would find a question or a comment or something in the comments of the video that I thought I had a good reply to, and I would plan out my reply on that red notebook. Eventually, you know, over the course of a year, I filled it up, and then I had to move over to this gray notebook. And since I took a break from creating those TikToks for a long while, there wasn't any entries in there. And then I started to be more active on here. And so I most of the time, to be completely honest with you, it's what do you call it? I'm shooting from the hip, as they say. But since I wanted to focus on my obvious blessings, I wanted to make sure I wrote them down, so I have it as a reference today. But the reason this notebook is special is because I got to this notebook by filling up the previous notebook that I used to achieve that level of following on my TikTok account. And I left it out one day, and my kids just scribbled all over it. But like I said, it's just a tool that I use, and I can write over the scribbles, and I can still read my writing. So it's, you know, it's not a big deal. So anyway, let's get started. So the first obvious blessing for me is just waking up, right? Why? Well, it means that I exist. It means that God is still willing that I exist, that he's still allowing me to exist. And there's people that went to sleep last night that will go to sleep tonight, and they think that they're going to wake up, and for some reason that they don't. You know, something similar happens to, you know, some people go in for routine surgery, and they think that they're going to wake up after that surgery, and for some reason they don't. Now, I don't know those reasons, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. And so it could have been me. It could be me. I pray that it's not for a long time, but just being alive is the first obvious blessing. And then I don't know if you guys are familiar with a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, aka Gary V. I don't know why you wouldn't be familiar with me, but not him. He's got like 10 million followers on Instagram alone, and he's on every relevant platform, every popular platform. So just on Instagram, he's got 10 million, but he talks about the odds of existing, and it's like 400 trillion. I could be misremembering, but even if it was like 400 billion to 1, the odds of even existing are very low. So it's like, it's an obvious blessing that you exist in the first place, that you were conceived and born. You already beat the odds. And I recently saw a video of Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about the same thing, that there are less people that have existed compared to the enormous amount of people that never got to exist. And I'm sure if you wanted to find that video on YouTube, or if you wanted to Google that, you'd be able to find it. I'm pretty sure it's a popular clip that they take of Neil deGrasse Tyson and just spread it around in all these platforms. So that's the first one, is when I wake up, the first obvious blessing is I got to wake up and I exist. Thanks be to God. Number two, the second obvious blessing, and I just filled up the page here. So, because I'm trying to keep it short and sweet and respect your time. So, number two is my body, your body, right? Especially if everything works as it's designed. So, my eyes can see, my nose can smell, um, my mouth can taste, and I can talk. As far as I know, I have all of my cognitive abilities. My ears can hear, my arms and my limbs and my legs work. My digestive system is fine. My heart's pumping blood. My lungs are on autopilot, right? If everything works as designed, that's a blessing. You could have been in a tragic accident. You could have been born without a limb. Or we could let our imaginations run wild, and it wouldn't be things that we're making up. It'd be things that we experience that other people go through, that for some reason, that happened to them. That's their situation, and for us, it's not. And a lot of times, the people that don't have a limb that works, or don't have a function that a able-bodied person does, or a quote-unquote normal uh, a person with a normal quote-unquote normal body has, a lot of times they feel grateful that their situation is not worse. So I mean, we can learn from that if they're grateful for the faculties that they have in their body, we should be too. That's the second obvious blessing. Third one is like your health, right? And I wasn't thinking about this when I wrote this, but I have done an episode on mental health with one of my friends that is a personal trainer, among other things, and that I respect. And he shared his journey with us on his mental health. And that seems to be a popular focus of the generation that we're living in right now. And I'm not going to pretend that I know why. It's just an observation that I've made. So if you're a person that considers yourself to have relatively good mental health, that's an obvious blessing. Not to mention, like, if you don't have any chronic or terminal diseases, right? Like, some people maybe woke up today, or some people maybe today is going to be the day that they receive the news that they have a terminal illness, and that they are in the beginning stages of a very limited amount of time left on earth, right? Or there's people who live with a chronic illness, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a chronic illness is just something that is not terminal, but that you most likely will have for the rest of your life. It causes you some level of pain, some level of suffering, some level of discomfort. A lot of times it comes with work. You've got to take some medications, go to a lot of doctor's appointments, maybe change your diet, live differently, right? It's something that you carry with you for the rest of your life. So if you don't have a chronic or terminal illness, and again, a lot of those people, they're more grateful than people like me, or maybe people like you that don't have those illnesses. They're grateful that it's not worse, or they're grateful that their illness hasn't caused them to die yet, right? So that is the third. So fourth would be, this might not be relatable to everyone. So I'm married. So if I wake up and I know that my wife is alive and healthy and happy, that is an obvious blessing. If you're a woman and you have a husband, I'm sure that my wife feels that way about me. That's an obvious blessing. How many people a day lose a spouse? I don't know, but there's 7 billion people in the world. It's not a small number, right? And along with that, I have 2 boys. So if I wake up and I know that my boys are safe, I know that they're healthy, that I'm doing everything I can to ensure their spiritual and physical health, that's an obvious blessing. So that leads to 5. If I woke up, like, where was I when I was sleeping? Like, do I have a relatively comfortable bed to my liking? That's an obvious blessing. Some people don't have a bed. Some people, maybe they do have a bed, but they can't afford to upgrade, so like, that messes with them. Some people are homeless, right? That's another obvious blessing. Like, even if you just got 1 hour of sleep, but you got to, for that hour, you got to lay on a comfortable bed, a bed that's comfortable for you. That's an obvious blessing. Number six, do you, oh, so if you have a bed, most likely you have a house, right? Well, does your house have heating and cooling? Because not everybody has that, right? So, like, if your house has heating and cooling, not only can you sleep at a comfortable temperature, you can just be in your house and exist and live your life in your house to your level of comfort at a moment's notice, at a whim. If you're hot, you can turn the air conditioning on. If you're cold, you can turn the heating on. Like, that is like a huge blessing for much of human history. That is one of the things that we've always pursued. When we're cold, we want to have the ability to get warm, and when we're warm, we want to have the ability to get cooler, right? So that is the sixth obvious blessing. Seventh is, if you're just listening, I looked down at my notebook and I looked back up, and the camera had like auto adjusted, and my face was like white as the snow. White as the snow. Yeah, white as snow. White as a ghost, I think is what I meant to say. But the seventh one is like if you have running water. So like you wake up, right? If you have running water, you can brush your teeth. You can use the bathroom, number one or number two, and get rid of that waste. You can bathe, and if you're thirsty, you can quench your thirst, right? That's the seventh obvious blessing. Not everyone has access to clean water. If you can just turn that faucet on and do what you have to do with it, even if you have a filter for your water, or if you get water brought to the house by some of these water services, drinking water services, or if you got one of those pitchers that you fill up to filter out things that you don't want in the water, like, that's an obvious blessing. Number 8 is, do you have the option of skipping breakfast? Because some people don't have that option. Some people don't have enough money to buy groceries. Some people don't have money in general, so they don't know where their next meal is going to come from. Some people are like me, and they've been blessed with a family, a wife and kids, and maybe they're going through hard times, and that person doesn't know how they're going to feed their family. They're working on it, but at the moment, they don't, it's uncertain for them. But if you have the option of skipping breakfast, it means that your refrigerator and your cabinets, or wherever you keep your groceries, there's food there, but because you're not hungry, or because you're in the habit of not eating breakfast, you decide to skip it. Some people, that's not a decision for them. They have to go about their day. They have to go to work. They have to go to school. They have to live their life without, thank God they woke up, but they've got to now figure out if they're going to eat, or what time they're going to eat, or what they're going to eat, or things like that. It's not an option for them. They just skip it and try to figure it out the rest of the day. 8th obvious blessing. And the last one that I wrote down because I ran out of space was, do you have a way to bring in income? Now, I didn't want to call it like, do you have a job? Because not everyone has jobs, but they, like, what's considered a quote unquote normal job. I have a normal job. I have a job that I go to 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day, from this time to this time, and a week later they give me my income. Some people, they don't have something like that, but they still have income coming in. They might sell something, for example, which is a skill, which would be, an obvious blessing, because not everyone has the skill to be able to sell something, whether it's a product or a service, and bring in income and be able to provide for themselves and others. Now, even if you had to work to get that skill, some people don't know the steps that they need to take to acquire that skill, right? They might not have somebody in their life. They might not have access to the internet. They might not be able to afford school, whatever. Doesn't mean that they're not trying. There's also people who don't aren't who are who they want a job, like me, like have a job, but for some reason um, they're trying and nothing has come up yet, right? So if you have a way to bring in income and pay for all these other obvious blessings, that in itself is a blessing. So those are 9 obvious blessings to me, um, for Catholics and non-Catholic Christians. This is considered an exercise in counting your blessings so that you can see that your life is better than you might think, uh, and at the same time that it's not as bad as you think. And from a secular point of view, it's just seen as practicing gratitude. So if you feel inclined to share your obvious blessings here on the YouTube comments, go ahead. Um, it took me, I wasn't actually counting, but it took me 5-10 minutes to come up with those 9. So if I were, I mean, just imagine, like, if it took me 5-10 minutes, let's say it took me 5 minutes. So if I can come up with 9 every 5 minutes, 5 goes into 60, like 12 times 5 times 9, that's like 45. So within an hour, I'd probably be able to come with 45 blessings. You'd be able to come up with 45 blessings or 45 things that you're grateful for. And like I said, it gives you perspective, and it gives you energy and enthusiasm, and as far as for me, I get excited. So if you like sharing here in the YouTube comments, go ahead and do that. I'll read through that. um, Spotify also automatically asks you what you thought of the episode. You can share your thoughts on the episode if you want, or if you want to type in your obvious blessings, go ahead and do that. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, especially if the YouTube algorithm has been pushing me to you and you have been watching. Um, if you've watched more than one video, then I'm doing something right. So go ahead and subscribe, turn the notification on, give it a like so that other people like you can find it. If you want to be more active about it, go ahead and share this episode with one of your besties and someone in your fan bam, right? If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, any of the audio only platforms, please leave me a review so other people like you can find the podcast, and that'll help me and motivate me to finally make it to 100 episodes this year, like I was telling you at the beginning of episode. And if I'm not forgetting anything, that's it. Thanks for listening and watching and being patient with me as I try to articulate my obvious blessings. And as I always end the show with something that I learned from my favorite philosopher, Fulton Sheen. Remember that your life is worth living. I will see you. You'll see me in that next episode, episode 58.